Well, I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Fraser Mulholland to I believe it's our fifth episode of Steve Tees Off, where we talk about golf and everything golf related. We want to focus on the local level. If it takes us to the provincial level, it takes us to the Canadian level, takes us to the PGA level, takes us to the world level. That's fine. But I thank you very much for Fraser for coming out here. I really appreciate it. Let's start off here, Fraser, with you telling us a little bit about your background and yourself and how you've become I would suggest you may say you're an icon in the golf community here in the Lower Mainland, and I know you're turning red.
No, it's just my normal. Oh, it's Scottish born.
Color.
Yeah. Well, that's where I grew up. I was born in Scotland, Aberdeen, up in the north of Scotland, and I was very privileged to get my hand on the golf club as a young boy. So learned the game at 6 or 7 years of age. My dad used to take my brother and I out for a game on the short course in Cullen, and remembered that vividly from my days as a young kid. But we moved into Canada when I was about 9 years of age, and again, very just fortunate to. And we talked about this earlier on before the pod, is convenience and accessibility. We lived in Tsawwassen, right up the hill from the local golf course there.
What brought your family to Canada?
So my dad's brothers had moved. One had come to university to go to law school, and the second had come out to go to school for doctorate. And they had moved out earlier, and the promise of just a better life. My dad was in sales at the time, and it was booming there in Aberdeen, but it was getting very expensive too with the oil rush. And yeah, they'd come over, years before, and they'd said, this is a great life, lots of opportunities, great schools. And so we made the journey out in 77, I think it was. And quickly my brother and I, gained some employment at, I guess not formally, but we were entrepreneurs. We went down the golf course, put on our welly boots, and
which golf course?
At Tsawwassen.
At Tsawwassen, okay.
So there was a ditch down the fourth and fifth fairways, and we
Find
just
some
trenched
balls.
through the golf balls. They were all muddy and disgusting. And one day we saw another young boy throwing a basket into the lake and pulling it out. Mm-hmm. And we see there's no mud on those balls, and he had about 20 in his basket in one pull. And we're like, well, we're going to the hardware store tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And then we had our little business there for a couple of years, dredging and selling golf balls on the fifth tee, looking for the Marshall cart, the red Marshall cart. We were quickly grab the balls, jump over the ditch, and hide behind the bush. And then fast forward, years later, we got a junior membership at Beach Grove. My uncle was a member there, and we were fortunate to get junior memberships. They're very affordable. Again, accessibility to be able to get on as a junior member, and we got to play, 2-3 rounds a day usually, and got great coaching there. The head pro, Sid Dahl, always had junior clinics for us there as young juniors, and learned how to compete. And I couldn't quite keep up with my brother. My brother was a year older, always better looking, better golf swing, yeah, a little taller, hit it further. And it kind of drove me away from the game for a couple of years. And I kind of went to tennis for a couple of years, but I still worked at the club. That was my first real job, was at Beach Grove as a back shop worker and, unplugging balls to the range. And, so I was still working there, but I was playing more tennis than golf. And my head pro finally said to me, Fraser, you're going to have to make a decision. You can't keep asking for all these weekends off for all these tennis tournaments. If you want to play golf, I'll give you every day off you want. Come back, get back in the game. I'll help you out. I'll pay for your tournament entries. And that was that. I never touched my tennis racket ever again. And that was this decisive moment in my golf career that, is why I'm here today.
How old were you then?
I would have been probably 16 or 17. And then, I got back into it, worked quite hard at getting back to form. And my brother's high school team had won the BC provincial championships. So I had a lot to aspire to try and get there myself. And went to UBC. Harry White, I don't know if you know that name, the legend.
Well of it.
Rest his soul.
Yeah.
did so much for golf in BC and Canada for junior golfers. There's thousands of juniors, myself, my brother, and many others included, that were fortunate to have Harry running junior tournaments like Brad Ewart is doing now, and gave us a foundation. And he approached my brother and I at an amateur tournament and said, why don't you and Robin try out for the team? And neither of us even knew there was a team at UBC. So we went that fall in my second year of UBC, and we tried out for the team. We barely both made it on the team, not as a starter, but we got to practice with the team, and got access to some coaching there. Dick Zokel was, Harry knew him very well from Marine Drive. He was out periodically to give us a little bit of mind coaching, fireside chats with Dick. That went a long way, but just got lots of competition, both there in the school years and then back to Beach Grove, would compete in amateur tournaments. But I never was really that good. I loved competing. I thought I was better than I really was, and I didn't work hard enough. I didn't work hard enough in my short game. I always measure myself with the guys we used to play. We got to play in a lot of great tournaments down south. Harry knew a lot of the golf coaches from the Junior America's Cup from Washington State, California, Oregon. So we played great tournaments down there. We got to play at Stanford University's tournament, Brigham Young, University of Oregon. We never really competed, and I think that's why we kept getting invited back, because we were never really taking any measurable points away from all the other teams. But it really kind of took me to want to play better, and I measure myself against those better college players. Why are they scoring better than me? And the short game was way better. They positioned the ball better. When they missed greens, they didn't short side themselves. And that's where I sort of started to learn how to play golf. Mm-hmm. And my coach, Sid Dahl, my head pro there, always said, don't spend too much time on the range. You better get it up and down from a garbage can, or you're not going anywhere. Mm-hmm. And so that fall, I graduated from UBC. I stuck into it. I worked incredibly hard. I decided to go into the PGA program, just like our buddy Matt Paulsenberg, and played my first Pro-Am at Beach Grove and played quite well. I made my first pro check, and I thought, this is great. I love this. And the following year, I played my first full season as a young pro, teaching golf and working at Beach Grove, and I won a few tournaments, and I thought, let's give it another try beyond local golf. And
what existed at that time? What existed for like a
circuit?
Yeah, circuit.
So the circuit was pretty closed. If you're in the PGA, if you were assistant pro, PGA of Canada pro, working class pro, there were events to play. There were probably a dozen events to play in: the Golden Ears Open, the Chilliwack Open, Peace Portal Open. But if you didn't have any status, if you were playing the Canadian Tour, if you had a PGA Canada card, you'd get in some of those events, but they didn't necessarily want the tour players playing in those tournaments. Mm-hmm. They wanted it to be a level playing field for the assistant pros and the young pros that were working their 40 hours a week and playing tournament golf. So it was really a bit of a void back then when I was playing. And I did actually take 1 year away from the PGA of Canada. I went out and tried to play the Canadian Tour that season, not very successfully. I made it into a couple of tournaments. But shortly after that, I ran out of money and I was back to work. I accepted a coaching job at UBC for the golf program. I was still at Beach Grove that year, and it really took me a few more years to kind of rebuild my confidence after a really tough learning experience in that first year on the Canadian Tour. The players were great. They're all great. And, I thought I was one of the best players in our region, only to be knocked down a few rungs when I saw how many good players there were out there. And I didn't want to discredit myself, but I knew I needed to work harder to actually make money at this thing as I was trying to play. And it's expensive, right? Every week there's cost to hotels and car rentals and so forth. And anyway, so long story short, that one quick season, I was back to being a club pro and working as coach of the UBC golf team. And in my third year, both the men's and the women's team. And I kind of worked through the industry. I moved roles from Beach Grove, got approached by the athletic director at UBC, who was seeing how much traveling I was doing from Beach Grove to UBC, trying to do both roles, assistant pro Beach Grove and Tsawwassen, as well as the coach of the UBC program. And he said, why don't we approach the head pro at Shaughnessy and see if maybe there's an assistant pro role where you could hang your hat there and then help take the team, and you're just driving up the University Boulevards to the team.
Yeah.
We did that. I moved to Shaughnessy for a year and coached the team, and actually managed to, through the support of the head pro there, managed to get the Shaughnessy as the home course for the UBC golf team, and they still have that 25 years later. But I was still in the industry, and I still hadn't really discovered what I could do as a tournament player until I moved from Shaughnessy. After 1 year, I started up the director of instruction program at McCleary Golf Course, just down the road from Shaughnessy.
Yeah.
And then my brother approached me. He was the GM at Tsawwassen Golf Country Club, where we grew up, and we were selling golf balls on the fifth tee. And their head pro, Murray Poggi, who, I don't know if you know Murray's name, is from the Maple Leaf Junior Tour, has been very successful with that tour. It's a national tour across Canada. And Murray was leaving Tsawwassen to do that full time. And so the head pro role at Tsawwassen opened up, and I applied for that role. And I was the head pro there for 3 years. And in my third year, I started to try and compete a little bit more again. And I dropped my hat into the Monday qualifier for what was the Greater Vancouver Open. It was a PGA Tour event at Northview.
Yep.
And I lucked my way through the Monday qualifier, and I got in the tournament. And after that week of experiencing, what it was like to play on the PGA Tour, just for that 1 week, or in my case, it was 2 days, because I missed the cut. It really gave me that taste of, I want to go back and I want to try and compete again. And so I gave my notice at Tsawwassen and decided I wanted to go travel. A good friend of mine, Derek Thornley, had been playing in Australia back about 10 years before that. He said he loved it over there. So I knew there was some access to play in some tournaments, being a PGA member. So I could go and I could try Monday qualify for some of the Pro-Am circuits and play for about 4 months. So I did that. Again, not tremendously successfully enough.
How did you get your funding to do that? How did you?
So I did a bit of funding myself. I put on a Pro-Am, and the proceeds from the Pro-Am were to support my traveling costs and expenditures. And it was, it wasn't $50,000 worth of fundraising, but it was about $10,000. And that helped me for about half of the expenses in Australia. And I did qualify for the Australian Open that year. Another memorable experience, but missed the cut and came home after 4 months completely broke, some credit card debts piling up. And it was, I got to get back to work. I got to get back to making money, but I still want to play. So instead of, going back to Tsawwassen, I had told them I didn't want to leave my job open, because I knew that it would be a crutch to come back knowing that I've got that position. I want to play, and I don't want to just do it this one winter. I want to do it for a few years. So I found an opportunity in North Vancouver at Seymour Creek Teaching Center, and good friend James Legault offered me a teaching position there, knowing that I wanted to play still and try and play some Canadian Tour golf and some of the local circuit there. And that gave me an opportunity for a few years to teach and play more consistently with what's now called the G&G Tour, which is the Assistant Pro Tour. And in a couple of years, I went off and I won the BC PGA Championship. That was probably my most notable win. But I was still set to play, and I went to South Africa for a couple of years and competed on that tour, tried to play in some of their qualifiers, played in the South African Open, South African Masters. But 2 years later, I came back broke again, more broke and more in debt. And no, it was a great learning experience. I did have some great fond memories of traveling across the country, made some great people, learned a lot about their tours and their tour structures, both there and in Australia as well. And just learned that they had so much more competition than we did. And after a couple more years trying in Asia, I went to try and qualify for the Asian Tour. My brother lives in Thailand, so I had a place to kind of go and go to their Q school and try and play some events there. It was enough. I'd had enough 5 years of draining my funds and putting myself in more debt. Still playing great local golf back in BC when I came home in the summers, but spending it all and more every time I went and traveled. And I said, I need to do something about this, not for myself, because, my career was on the tail end, but I really want to give something. I want to start something here in Vancouver and BC for the players to not have to go through what I did.
So so what we're talking about, the inspiration for VGT.
Yeah. And that's where it started. Scott Minnie was teaching a little bit with us at Seymour Creek.
Mm-hmm.
I kept, talking about it and complaining about it, I guess, so much, why we don't have more to play here. He's like, why don't you start something? You start the Vancouver Golf Tour.
Mm-hmm.
I said, yeah, I will. And so I, looked into what it would cost to, put a website together. I was teaching, one of my students was a web builder. So I got him involved in, the idea. And one of my other students was a CFO for a few small businesses downtown. So together we kind of formed a team, and, I sort of laid down a platform that I thought was going to be, conducive to giving the players a place to play. We started with one event, one big flagship pro-am at Northview, where we had 36 teams, and the top player was going to win a trip down to PGA Tour Q School. We were going to pay for that Q School, and the winner of that tournament, Jay Ballack, went down, and he didn't quite make it through. But in the second year, the Order of Merit winner, it was always the same vision. The winner of the Order of Merit at the end of the year, you're getting a fully paid trip to go to Q School, and hopefully that's going to allow, generate more players to get down there and have some success. And Bryn Perry went down that year. They went through all 3 stages, got through first stage, second stage, third stage, and it was a 6-round final stage down at PGA West in California, and he made it to the final round. He thought he needed a birdie on the last hole. He went for the pin, ended up making bogey. Turned out he needed par. So he missed getting his PGA Tour card by a shot, but we knew we were getting somewhere.
Yeah.
And, fast forward a couple years later, and Bryn had some tremendous success, playing the web.com back then, now Corn Ferry Tour, almost won in the Corn Ferry, and, didn't quite make it to the PGA Tour, but we saw that there's fruits to the labor, right? Adam Hadwin popped in 2009 after turning pro, and decided to not play the Canadian Tour. Just decided to do it a little bit more conservatively. Didn't want to spend the money he had raised through sponsorship to play our tour, and to not run out of it after a year and not know if he was going to have any money left. Honestly, he wasn't sure he was ready. But after winning 4 or 5 times on our tour that year, he had more confidence. He went and won another tournament in Phoenix. And then that fall, he got his Canadian Tour card, and he won in his first year. And then the rest is history for Adam.
How long has the VGT been going on?
We just completed our 19th season. So
19th.
We're rolling in at our 20th anniversary next year, and we're excited about that. We're going to look into a bit of a rebrand for the 20th anniversary, and some new things on the horizon. Some definitely.
How many events do you hold?
Honestly, too many. We've run 35 in the summer and another 15 in the winter. So 50 tournaments a year, which is great for the players. It gives them week in, week out opportunities to stay sharp, to play in preparation for maybe bigger events that they're traveling to. But it tires our team out. We're not big enough, honestly, to run the size of events we want to run. And so some of the events become a little bit smaller, and it's a little harder, I think, for the players to get excited about it when it's a 50-player field. The purse doesn't get where we want it to be for the pros. And
what is the purse?
So basically, we always want to make sure we're not taking anything away from the pros entries. And that has been something I've held strongly with from day one, is that they need to play for what they put in. So at least what they put in. So if there's 40 pros and they're putting in $400 entries, it's a $16,000 purse. If we have sponsors, we top it up and prop it up maybe 10 or 20%. And then our flagship event, the Vancouver Open, is where we add a few more sponsors with Honor Brown support as a title sponsor, where we get that purse up to $50,000 to $60,000. And regular mini tours. That's why I don't like to call ourselves a mini tour. I like to call ourselves a developmental tour, because we don't, in the States, the mini tours are all cash high entries, $1,000, $1,200 entries, in order for the purse to be bigger. And sure, they might pay, the first place might be 10 or 20,000, but after 10 events, you might be broke.
Yeah.
So our entries are in that $300 to $400 range.
You want to alleviate that barrier to entry.
We want to give them a full season for under 10,000 for the whole year.
Yeah.
And they can play 30 events. You go down to a mini tour, and for the Canadians who are spending also on flights and hotels, food, rentals, you could be done in 6 months, and that's it. So you can play our tour for 3 or 4 years. If you need a second job, you can work part-time while you're doing it, because there are days off. We're not doing 4-day tournaments plus practice rounds and pro-ams. Most of our tournaments are 2-day events. We have the odd 3-day event. So players could have potentially, they could work in the golf shop. They could work a couple of days, make a bit of money while still being coached locally. The benefits of our tour being a regional tour is that they can stay home as a young, maybe they've just turned pro from college, stay with mom and dad for a couple of years, keep your expenses low. You're not going to make as much if you played as well, maybe on PGA Tour Americas. You're not going to make $150,000, but you're not going to spend nearly as much. Yeah. You're going to be capped at $8,000 to $10,000. G-Van this year, he made almost $50,000, and Ilari Anzali,
and he's on the Corn Ferry. You'll be
he's attempting to.
He's attempting to get on.
He's just got past the first of 3 stages yesterday, and so he's a third of the way there.
Okay.
But that's the process. You could either play PGA Tour Canada or PGA Tour Americas now it's called, and it's going to cost you $60,000 to $70,000 to travel that tour. I would look at that money list. I don't have it in front of me, but if you're not in the top 10 on that tour, you're losing money.
Yeah,
and the top 10 on our tour are all making money. They're not going to be able to take $50,000 and then go travel. G-Van is. He's gonna get some bursary money. We have a development fund that we've started 4 years ago. He's going to get a significant amount of money that he's going to get to put towards his earnings, and that's going to help him be able to travel almost the whole year next year.
So how many? I want to frame this question correctly. With the VGT, the criteria for entrance. What is that?
So they can be junior golfers. We take as young as 12 years old, as long as they're acting accordingly, but we have amateur golfers up to 26 handicap. My first thought was this is going to be an elite young amateur and pro tour. Quickly learned that the database isn't big enough in order to accrue sponsors. Sponsors don't want to just have that one sector of 60 players. If you're going to get 200 to 300 players in the field, you're going to have to draw it out and invite players of all abilities. And so that's where the tour really developed. Even in year 2, we went from it being 10 and under to 18 and under, and we're now 22 and under. And so we'll have 3,000 golfers that will come out and play at least one event of our tour. But the majority of the golfers are amateur, and there's a small sector that are our young pros, and it's flighted so that the players can play and feel comfortable about coming out at any level and any experience. And as long as they know the rules of golf, you're not going to know them all, but as long as you know the basic rules of golf and how to conduct yourself on a golf course, you can play in our tournament. You don't have to be a member. You can join the tour at the beginning of the year, and then you're going to save a little bit per entry for every entry we have. And it will serve you to join. And there's some member only benefits throughout the year. They get some preferred benefits off some of our manufacturers, Strixon, Cleveland, Maui Gym, some of the sponsors that are on board. They'll get some perks to that, but they'll also be able to qualify for the Order of Merit points and the cash prizing for the end of the year for the pros, and the amateur prizing for the amateurs too.
So you've had basically what you're describing here is a developmental.
It is. It's a pathway. It's a pathway, and but it's also a league. It's sort of two. It's a league for, there's 70-80% of the players that play our tour are not aspiring to ever be on any major PGA Tour or Corn Ferry Tour. They love to compete. We're giving them a place to do it locally, to aspire to better, whether it's 22 going to an 18 and moving up the divisions, or if it's a 6 that wants to get into to try and become a scratch golfer. But my passion lives in trying to develop and give the access to the young players who really want to take their game to the next level, such as what I was 35 years ago, to become the next Adam Hadwin or Nick Taylor.
And so you have had players come through that have.
Yeah, Adam. I mean, Bryn was probably our first. He had the most success and made it beyond, our tour, PGA Tour Canada, to the Corn Ferry Tour. He played in a couple of PGA Tour events. But Adam Hadden was the first that had the quickest success. He made it onto Canadian Tour, won a couple of times. Then he made it to the web.com.
Mm-hmm.
He won on the web.com. And then Nick, shortly after him, a year later in 2010, he was playing the Canadian Tour at that time. And he kind of played a few more of our events in 11 and 12. And then in 2013, he played about 15 of our events, and he won 8 times on our tour as well. And within a year, he'd actually made the jump from Canadian Tour and our tour to the web.com and then to the PGA Tour. And he'd won his first event on the PGA Tour within a year of playing his last VGT event,
Wow.
which was crazy to think that could happen that fast. Mm-hmm. And you look at the success, it's insurmountable, 5 tournament wins on the PGA Tour, being the first Canadian to win the Canadian Open in 59 years, and now having 5 wins, it's remarkable, actually. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when you see, like the events that you do hold, and you've got sponsorship and like, are there galleries that come out?
For sure. I'm not in the hundreds to thousands of, but there's trickle of friends and family and caddies that have maybe caddied the morning, and they'll stick around and watch. The Vancouver Open is our most prominent gallery for our tour, and there might be 500-600 people spattered around the golf course on that Sunday at Fraser View. It's a great golf course to view and host. Mm-hmm. But when Adam was in the field, he played it in 2010 and 2011. In 2011. He had a remarkable run playing in the Canadian Open at Shaughnessy. Mm-hmm. He came 4th place in that tournament, and that was sort of his breakout to be more known. And so 3 weeks later, he came back and he played in the Vancouver Open at the 3 city golf courses. And I would say we had over 1,000 people coming to watch Adam Hadwin.
Yeah.
And see this breakout sensation. Mm-hmm. And he dramatically won it in a playoff and made a 6-footer for the win, and it was a great story.
Great. So when you see like there's a certain, what traits, because you've been in the business so long and you've played it so long, you've had, and it's in your blood. What this may be a difficult question, but what traits do you look for in a and I want to and this may seem like a loaded question, but it's a male tour. Like, no.
Okay, and it's not loaded. No, male, female, and we have a women's division. Okay, and we have a BC Women's Open. We started that 4 years ago.
Okay,
so we've gone through 4 years of having a dedicated Open for the female golfers in BC. And we have had a partnership the last 2 years with Golf Canada with that event, where it's become an elevated event on their schedule. They have a small 3-schedule Canadian Tour, call it, for women's golf. And the winner of that event, our BC Women's Open, got into the Canadian Women's Open the last 2 years. So no, not just males, but it is heavily, I would say we're in the 85 to 90% male golfers over women, but we do give the women a chance to play and compete against the men from a fair set of tees, a fair yardage. And we have had quite a lot of women champions playing in the mixed male-female competitions.
Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So the next question was, what trait, like when you see a young golfer come along, because of your experience, what traits do you...
What's going to make them a champion?
Yeah.
I mean, it's discipline. I think that's the biggest thing is working extremely hard and being dedicated to their craft. I mean, you have to have a certain amount of technique, physical ability, but at some point, I look at if it's our top 30 or 40 players and how they hit the ball. I mean, it's hard to tell the difference off the tee. I announce on the tee and I see tremendous talent off the tee, but yet I see the same 5 to 10 at the top of the leaderboard almost every time. And I would say it's what they're doing to prepare. There's a lot. Like, I learned a lot myself of what not to do, but I think you have to have a team around you that can help you build a functioning golf swing that's repeatable under pressure because when you get away from local, comfortable golf courses you've played on the regular, you better have a repeatable golf swing that you know what it's doing, and it's got to have a small miss and a miss that you can accept and find the ball. But beyond that, there's so much to be learned. So I think at a young age, they're learning. They keep after learning so much, and I think it's at that point, if you've taken it all in and you've gotten the information from the credible people that are teaching you how to navigate, different golf courses, where to position the ball. When the pin is over here, it's better to be 15 feet there than there. Those are skills that have to be learned. You can't just know that right away.
You can't teach that. You've got to learn that.
You've got to learn that. Yeah. It's not, I don't think that's ever in there right away. I think it takes a lot of coaching, and I think, but you have to be disciplined to take the coaching. I think if someone doesn't want to learn, doesn't want to listen, they want to do it on their own, they'll only make it so far. You look at the majority of the players on the PGA Tour, they have a team around them.
Yeah.
They built a team around them that helps them succeed, because it's a lonely journey. When you get away from playing in your own region and all of a sudden you've got a card now to go play whatever tour it is. I mean, if you have someone to travel with you, great. Now you're doubling your expenses.
Yeah.
So if you've got the funding, great. Take your father, take your best friend to go and caddy for you, someone that's very experienced. Maybe it's your coach that you can take with you on certain trips. But otherwise, you need a team that's giving you the right information on those down days, down afternoons where you came off and it wasn't a 65. It's easy to, feel great about yourself and that you've got it in you when you shoot 65, 66. But when you shoot 74, 75, or 77, just pick yourself back up, to get back in the game and to believe that you can turn that around and shoot 65 the next day. And I think if you are on your own there and you're coming from a local scene to a much bigger tour with different golf courses and different grass, different weather, different food, traveling, what hotels, learning how to take an Uber from point A to point B and being on time for your tee time, you need to have people help you with that. And I think guys like AJ has got a great team around him. G-Van has got some people around them. And I think those are the players that will continue to succeed beyond our tour.
And BC here has, just because of the climate, we have but the interesting thing is that there's a kid, an Indian young man that did he get his tour card? He's in Mississauga. He grew up in Winnipeg, played, I know the dome where he played.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Taught himself on YouTube.
Yep.
Okay. Do you know who I'm talking about?
Until this year, I didn't know anything about him until I saw him win on the Corn Ferry Tour earlier this year, right?
And I can't even pronounce his last name, Yalama. I'm probably saying it wrong, and I don't want to say it because I'll butcher it. But I was reading his story, grew up in Winnipeg, didn't go to college, watched YouTube videos, went to the practice range in in Winnipeg, there's a great big dome. In the wintertime, you freeze your ass off. And I've been in, and then ended up moving to Mississauga and then turned pro. And now and you go, wow.
Right. A lot of obstacles there.
That's right. A lot of obstacles.
But there are 2 tours back there that he played similar to ours. And I know they love saying, hey, he played on our tour before he made it there. And I do think that probably did support him and gave him a place to play regionally before he made it out to play on the Corn Ferry. And that does help, right?
Yeah.
And it is helping a lot of our players.
Yeah. So we'll attempt to wrap things up here, but you said that you have the barrier to entry is just the entrance fee, and you have it flighted. You said you hold like 50 events, but you're probably trying to scale that down a little bit.
Yeah, our winter events are smaller, but the core season, 30, 35 events, I think we need to get it into the 20, something in the 20s, so that we can spread them out a little bit more, but make them bigger, so that every event that they play in feels more simulated to a bigger experience and a bigger platform and more prize money and potentially more gallery. Those scenarios that they're going to feel when they move away from playing our tour into the bigger circuits.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And if you were to say the one thing that the VGT is in need of,
more money.
Well, it was always more
money. The obvious.
But you're known. You've been around for 19 years.
Sure.
And any aspiring young individual who wants to take their name. And the one thing about real tournament golf is it's way different than than three of your buddies playing at Fraserview. It's a different. It counts. It counts.
You can't just pick up a 4-footer anymore.
Exactly.
You have to.
Oh, that's good. No, you're putting that out.
Well, especially if someone who hasn't. We hear that a lot from more of the amateurs who start to compete with us. They haven't really competed much, and they just want to kind of get their feet wet. And they're like, at the end of the day, they're like, "Wow, that was so much different."
Yeah,
like I felt so much different. It's like, yeah, but you keep doing it, and it's not going to feel as different.
Yeah,
it's just going to feel like another day on the VGT.
Mm-hmm.
And then you jump from the VGT to PGA Tour Americas, you're going to have that same feeling because it's different.
Mm-hmm.
But the more you play out there, so the faster you can get out there and get beyond our tour onto PGA Tour Americas and Corn Ferry Tour, the more you're just going to feel like it's just another tournament. But we are trying to make our tour as simulated as we can so that the players do get that sense of, feeling nervous and, having to knock in 4-footers when there's some gallery around and make the checks bigger. It counts for more, right? Mm-hmm. They're thinking about it more when it's a 10 grand check versus 2,000.
Oh, sure.
Right?
Sure.
And the difference between first and second might be 5 grand.
Sure.
Or 15 grand.
Sure.
So
if our listeners or people viewing wanted to find out more information about the VGT where would they go?
Yeah, our website is vancouvergolftour.com, but through social media, our handles on Instagram is at Van Golf Tour, as well as X, and Vancouver Golf Tour on Facebook.
Okay, perfect. And I'm just gonna sort of have a little lighten things up here, and because what's the most unusual thing you've seen on the golf course?
Well, I noted a few things on my travels. Kangaroos in Australia,
okay,
and baboons. Yeah, Sun City in South Africa, and I was in New Zealand trying to qualify for the New Zealand Open, and we weren't on the course that had happened, but there was a tornado that happened maybe 2-3 miles away from us. And on the golf course we were at, the animals, the wildlife just off the golf course were acting so strangely. I saw probably a herd of maybe 60 cattle, and they were all lined up like military style, stationary. I never, didn't even think until the next day we saw there was a tornado. So I think in those kind of weird weather climates, they just act, they know something's coming, right? So those are the three.
Cool. Very cool. Very cool. Well, listen, and on the closing thought, advice for junior players. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I want to hear because everyone, as parents, with children playing in various sports, parents tend to try to live vicariously through their children.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't, in golf, golf is such an individual sport too. And, but what advice would you give to, first of all, let's say a parent who recognizes that their child has some talent. And then the second part of that question is to that junior golfer.
So the first thing for the parents is don't push them into not having any fun, and make it fun for them. Like you said, when they start off golf, take them to a place like Matt's outdoor golf and not, make it feel like work. Because as soon as it feels like work and they're not enjoying themselves, no matter how good they get, when they stop seeing the results coming, it's not going to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
So have fun in the process, make things fun. And and be patient. Like, it is a long journey, and enjoy the little moments, right? Whether it's the banter around the chipping green with your buddies and having games on the golf course, because it can be tough and lonely, and it can drive you away from it if you are too serious about it. And that's what I would say, is just make sure, don't lose the fun and the enjoyment of the game, because it is a game.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, listen, Fraser, thank you so much. I'd like to give a shout out to riversidegolf.ca, who this is brought to you by. And you've got the information about the VGT. Fraser, I thank you for coming out here and having this discussion. We will definitely do it again. This is something that I'm passionate about. I love talking about golf, as you can tell.
Absolutely.
And thank you again.
My pleasure.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you so much
Thank
for
you
having me
so
on the show. Thanks, Steve.